The stars outside the window of the Endeavour blinked like cold fires in the endless dark. Captain Jake Vaughan stood on the bridge, hands behind his back, watching the emptiness stretch forever. It was just another patrol in the shatter belt, a scattered line of fragile human colonies at the galaxy's edge. Jake had done this 100 times before. Boring, but necessary. Pirates and raiders loved forgotten places like this. "Captain, I'm picking up something," said Ensign Lun, breaking the silence. Jake turned. "What is it?" Lane frowned at the screen. "It's an SOS signal, sir. Very weak. Coming from Kesserin Colony, Sector 9. Jake's jaw tightened. Kesserin was supposed to be a quiet farming colony. No reason for trouble. Unless something had gone very wrong. "Details?" he asked. Lane shook his head. "Can't tell. The message is old and damaged. Just a distress call." And silence. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lieutenant Anders, Jake's second in command, stepped closer. "Sir," Anders said quietly, "this could be a trap. Pirates sometimes fake signals to lure in ships." Jake knew he was right. In the shatter belt, trust could get you killed. But he also remembered another SOS, years ago, that he had ignored, and the hundreds who died because of it. "We answer distress calls," Jake said firmly. "That's who we are." Anders nodded, even if he didn't look thrilled about it. Jake looked around the bridge. "All hands, prepare for possible combat. Lane, plot a course. Best speed." "Aye, Captain," Lane said, fingers dancing over the controls. The Endeavour turned toward Kesserin Colony, its engines humming to life. The crew moved with quick, tense motions. Everyone could feel it. Something was wrong, very wrong. Jake settled into his command chair, staring at the stars ahead. His gut twisted with unease. Was he about to save lives, or walk straight into a death trap? Either way, there was no turning back now. The Endeavour dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a soft jolt. Before them floated Kesserin Colony, or what was left of it. The planet's surface looked scorched. Huge black scars marked the ground. Farms were abandoned, fields ruined. Smoke still curled into the sky in thin, dark fingers. Captain Jake Vaughan stood up from his chair, staring at the grim sight. "Open a channel to the colony," he ordered. Lane tapped the console. A moment passed. Static filled the bridge speakers. "No response, sir," Lane said, frowning. "Try emergency channels," Jake said. Another pause. More silence. Jake's heart sank. Something terrible had happened here, and no one was left to answer. "Prepare a landing party," he said. "I'm going down there." Anders stepped forward quickly. "Sir, you shouldn't go alone. Let me lead." Jake raised a hand. "No, I need to see it for myself." Anders hesitated, then nodded. "Understood." Jake picked a small team, 4 trusted crew members, including Anders. They boarded a shuttle and descended through the gray, smoky clouds. The colony was a ghost town. Buildings stood silent and broken. Streets were littered with debris. An overturned tractor blocked the main road. No bodies, no signs of life, just an eerie, heavy silence that pressed down on them. Jake kept his hand near his sidearm as they moved through the settlement. "This place is dead," muttered Anders, voice low. Jake scanned the area. Something's not right. If it was raiders, where are the signs of a fight? No bullet holes, no burn marks from laser weapons, only destruction, precise, methodical, cold. They reached the colony's communication center. The building was cracked open like a broken egg. Inside, Jake found the source of the SOS, an old transmitter, rigged to repeat the same message over and over. "Sir," said Lane, checking the equipment. This was set manually. Recently, Jake's stomach tightened. "This isn't a call for help," Jake said slowly. "It's bait." Suddenly Lane's scanner beeped sharply. He looked up, eyes wide with fear. Multiple contacts incoming. Ships, lots of them. Jake's blood ran cold. "Back to the shuttle," he barked. They sprinted through the broken streets, weapons drawn, hearts pounding. Overhead, the sky darkened as dozens of enemy ships dropped out of warp. By the time they reached orbit, it was clear they were surrounded. Dozens of sleek, dark ships, bearing the red marks of the Turl Dominion, closed in like wolves around the Endeavor. Jake slammed into his chair on the bridge. Raise shields. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The trap had been set perfectly, and now they were caught in it. Jake's fists clenched. He would not go down without a fight. All hands, he said into the comms, voice steady, battle stations. Outside the window, the enemy ships moved into attack position. The first blast rocked the Endeavor hard. The Endeavor shook violently as another enemy blast slammed into the shields. Lights flickered across the bridge. Alarms screamed. Shields at 70%, shouted Len. Multiple enemy ships closing in fast, Anders added, gripping the console. Captain Jake Vorn stayed calm. Panic would only get them killed faster. Helm full evasive maneuvers. Get us out of their net. Jake barked. The pilot yanked the controls, and the Endeavor twisted sharply, engines roaring. Laser fire streaked past, missing them by meters. The Trill Dominion ships moved like hunters, boxing them in from all sides. These were no ordinary pirates. This was a military trap, and it had been planned carefully. Return fire, targeted bursts only, Jake ordered. Don't waste shots. Hit engines, not hulls. Turrets on the Endeavor spun and fired. Sharp, precise blasts struck a few of the smaller enemy ships, crippling them but not destroying them. It bought a little space but not much. This isn't a fight we can win, Anders said quietly, standing close to Jake. I know, Jake said. We're not here to win. We're here to survive. He leaned toward the communications console. Open a secure channel. Send out a sector-wide distress call. Use Deathworlder Priority Code 1. Lane's fingers flew across the controls. Message sent, Captain. Jake nodded. It was a desperate move, calling the scattered human colonies to arms. But it was their only chance. More blasts hit them. Sparks flew from a console nearby. A crew member yelped, pulling back from the damaged panel. Shields at 40%, Lane shouted. Jake knew they couldn't hold much longer. Prepare for emergency jump, he ordered. Get me a gap, just a sliver. The pilot gritted his teeth and sent the Endeavor diving through the thickest part of the enemy formation. The ship shuddered under the stress. Enemy fire hammered them from all sides. At the last second, the Endeavor broke through the blockade. Lane activated the jump drive. The stars outside stretched into lines as the ship tore through space, leaving the Trill Dominion ships behind. Silence fell over the bridge. Smoke drifted from damaged panels. Everyone sat tense and sweating, but alive. Jake leaned back in his chair, feeling the weight of what had just happened. We were bait, he said grimly, and we took it. He stood up and faced his crew. But we're not alone. That signal we sent, it will bring others. Jake's voice was low but firm. His eyes were hard with determination. They wanted to wipe us out quietly. Now they'll face the Deathworlder's full fury. Far behind them, the Shatterbelt colonies began to stir. The Deathworlders were waking up. The Endeavor limped into the hidden sector known as Bastion Reach, a safe zone deep inside the Shatterbelt. Here, humanity's secret defenses waited, far from the eyes of their enemies. Jake Vorn stood at the bridge window, watching as ship after ship answered the call. First came the war frigates from the mining worlds, heavy and scarred, built for endurance. Then came sleek fighter squadrons from deep space stations. Even old colony ships, armored and refitted for battle, joined the growing fleet. In just a few hours, the empty void around Bastion Reach filled with hundreds of human ships, a rough, brutal armada, shaped by the deadly worlds they came from. They actually came, whispered Lane, awe in his voice. Jake smiled grimly. We survive harsh worlds. We survive worse enemies. An emergency council was formed aboard the flagship Resolute. Jake sat with other captains and leaders, all hardened by years of struggle on the galaxy's most unforgiving planets. On the holographic map, the enemy forces blinked in red. The Deathworlder fleet blinked in blue, smaller in number but stronger in spirit. Admiral Cora Delane, an old battle veteran with a face full of scars, leaned forward. The Trill think they can wipe us out before we react. They think we'll stay scattered and scared, she said. But today, We show them who they're dealing with. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Jake stood. They lured us into a trap. They wanted to pick us off one by one. Now we strike together. We hit them fast. We hit them hard. We protect our homes. And we show the galaxy we will not go quietly. A roar of approval echoed through the chamber. The plan was simple. Split into strike groups. Attack key enemy ships. Take out their leadership quickly. Use the toughness, speed, and stubbornness that only Deathworlders could master. Jake returned to the Endeavor with fire burning in his chest. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need speeches. He simply said, "Battle stations. We fight for every world they thought they could take." Engines roared to life across Bastion Reach. Ships turned, aligned, ready. The Deathworlder Armada surged into the stars like a storm unleashed. They weren't running anymore. They were coming for war. The Deathworlder Armada moved like a living storm across space, heading straight for the heart of the Turl Dominion forces. On the bridge of the Endeavor, Captain Jake Vorn watched the battlefield form ahead. Red dots, enemy ships, filled the holographic display. Blue dots, Deathworlder ships, closed in from all sides. "All ships in position," Lane reported, voice steady but tense. Jake nodded. "Begin the assault." The space around them exploded into action. Deathworlder ships, built strong and fast, charged into the Turl lines. Fighters weaved through enemy formations, hammering key targets with deadly precision. Heavy frigates fired brutal barrages, tearing through enemy cruisers like knives through cloth. The Turl fought hard, but they weren't prepared for the way humans fought. Rough, clever, and relentless. Jake's voice cut through the noise on the bridge. "Target their flagships, break their command, and the rest will fall." The Endeavor led a group of fast attack ships straight toward the center of the enemy fleet. Laser fire lit up the darkness. Explosions burst like firecrackers across the void. "Shields holding at 60%. Lane shouted. "Keep moving. Don't let them box us in," Jake ordered. The Endeavor twisted and rolled through enemy fire. Jake's crew worked like a machine, focused, fast, fearless. Ahead, the biggest Turl battleship loomed, a dark giant, bristling with weapons. The flagship of Archon Vrex. Jake narrowed his eyes. "There's our target," he said. The Deathworlder ships regrouped and pushed harder, cutting a bloody path through the enemy lines. The Turl ships began to break apart, confused by the wild, unpredictable tactics the humans used. One by one, enemy ships exploded or fell back. Jake kept the Endeavor driving forward. A Turl cruiser tried to block them. Anders fired a full spread of torpedoes, ripping the cruiser apart. The enemy flagship grew larger on the screen, its weapons locking onto the Endeavor. "Incoming fire," shouted Lane. Jake gripped his chair. "Brace for impact." The Endeavor shook violently as blasts slammed into the shields. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. Shields at 25%. Jake didn't flinch. "Hold course. We take down Vrex, or we don't come back at all." Around them, Deathworlder ships poured into the gap, following the Endeavor's lead. Archon Vrex's flagship began to back away, sensing the danger. But it was too late. Teach gritted his teeth. "This ends now," he said. The Endeavor dove straight toward the heart of the enemy ship, guns blazing. The enemy flagship loomed large, dark and menacing against the starfield. Its guns fired again and again, but Captain Jake Vorn refused to slow down. "All power to forward shields," Jake ordered. The Endeavor shook under the heavy hits, but it pushed through, closer and closer. Inside the flagship, Archon Vrex must have realized he was trapped. His forces were scattered. His commanders either destroyed or retreating. Still, he fought with all the rage of a cornered beast. Jake leaned forward. His voice was steady. "Target their engines. We need him alive." The ship's cannons roared. Blasts tore into the enemy's engines, sending sparks and metal flying into space. The flagship's movement slowed, then stopped. It was crippled. Jake stood from his chair. "Anders, you're with me. Prepare a boarding party." Anders nodded. His face was grim but ready. Minutes later, Jake and his team crossed the void in armored assault pods, slamming into the wounded flagship's hull. The corridors inside were filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. Turtle soldiers tried to resist, but the Deathworlders fought with brutal skill, moving fast, taking down anything in their way. Jake's boots pounded the metal floor as he led the charge toward the command center. At the massive blast doors, they planted charges. The explosion rocked the hallway, and Jake rushed in, weapon raised. Inside, Archon Vrex stood waiting. The alien warlord was huge, covered in dark battle armor, his sharp teeth bared in a snarl. "You humans are fools," Vrex growled. "You think you can stop what is already in motion?" Jake stepped forward calmly, weapon aimed but not firing. "You built your empire on fear," Jake said. "It ends today." Vrex roared and charged. Jake sidestepped, firing a quick controlled shot. It hit Vrex's shoulder, knocking him off balance. They fought hard, Jake dodging heavy blows, striking back with speed and precision. Finally, Jake tackled Vrex to the ground. With Anders' help, they locked the warlord in heavy restraints. Vrex struggled and roared, but it was over. Jake stood over him, breathing hard. "You wanted to break us," Jake said coldly. "Instead, you woke us up." Around them, the flagship shuddered. Deathworlder ships had taken full control. The Turtle fleet was in full retreat, running from a fight they could no longer win. Jake tapped his communicator. "Flagship secured. Enemy leader captured. Inform the fleet, the Shatterbelt is ours." On the bridge of the Endeavor, cheers erupted. The Deathworlders had won, but Jake knew it wasn't just about this battle. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity was here to stay, and they would never be underestimated again. The battered Endeavor returned to Bastion Reach, leading the victorious Deathworlder fleet. Behind them, the broken remnants of the Turtle Dominion scattered into the far corners of space, too weak and afraid to fight anymore. On the bridge, Captain Jake Thorne stood tall, his uniform scorched and torn but his spirit stronger than ever. "Status report," he said. Lane grinned. "Enemy fleet routed, sir. Our forces have full control of the Shatterbelt." Jake allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. Against impossible odds, humanity had stood together and won. The news of their victory traveled fast across the galaxy. Alien civilizations that once viewed humans as dangerous loners now saw them with new eyes, not just survivors of a harsh world, but defenders of peace. Respect was earned, and fear followed. No one would easily dare challenge a Deathworlder again. On the ground, colonies began to rebuild. Farmers returned to their fields. Children laughed and played among the ruins, unaware of how close they had come to losing everything. Jake and his crew helped wherever they could, repairing defenses, delivering supplies, protecting settlers. The Endeavor became a symbol of hope, not just a ship of war. At a ceremony held at Bastion Reach, Admiral Cora Delane stepped onto a simple platform built from salvaged metal. She raised a battered human flag and spoke to the gathered crowd. "We are the children of hard worlds. We are the survivors of storms, wars, and endless nights. And today we prove to the stars that we are stronger together." The crowd erupted into cheers. Jake stood quietly at the edge, his heart full. He thought back to the day they first heard the SOS, a simple signal, a cry for help that led them to war. He was glad they had answered it, because it had shown them who they truly were. After the ceremony, Jake returned to the Endeavor. Anders met him at the airlock. "Where to now, Captain?" Anders asked. Jake looked up at the endless stars, a faint smile on his lips. "Wherever someone needs help," he said simply. The engines rumbled to life. The Endeavor rose, leaving Bastion Reach behind, sailing forward into the unknown. A new chapter for humanity had begun. One built on courage, unity, and hope.